My name is Paul Barrow. Welcome back into Tech Path. A couple of points I want to get to. Let's go to, of course, one of our heroes, and that is Mr. Tom Emmer. Take a listen.
Chairman Gary Gensler's tenure at the SEC has been characterized by regulatory hypocrisy, inconsistency, and incompetence. The Securities and Exchange Commission's Staff Accounting Bulletin 121, commonly known as SAB 121, is just one example of Chair Gensler's egregious attempts to expand the SEC's authority and his clear bias toward the digital asset ecosystem. More than 2 years ago, the SEC disguised this illegal rule as guidance, circumventing Congress and public input so they could prevent banks from safeguarding consumer-owned digital assets. However, this rule isn't just overreaching and illegal. It violates the SEC's statutory mission. First, SAB 121 introduces more unnecessary and avoidable concentration risk into the digital asset ecosystem, making our markets less fair, less orderly, and less efficient. Second, it weakens investor protections by barring Americans from using the established banking infrastructure to custody their digital assets, which leaves Americans' assets more vulnerable if a custodian becomes insolvent. And third, this rule hampers capital formation and global competitiveness, as foreign banks already have the ability to compete in crypto markets while our banks cannot. The SEC's statutory mission is to protect investors, facilitate capital formation, and maintain fair, orderly, and efficient markets. Later this week, House Republicans, we're going to do our job to provide oversight and accountability to the SEC by passing Congressman Mike Flood's resolution so that this illegal and harmful rule ceases to be in effect. I hope that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle will join us as we work to ensure the digital asset ecosystem can thrive right here in the United States.
The keynote here was Mike Johnson, who's the Speaker of the House, that was standing right behind Tom Emmer. So what we're seeing here is great support. That is a good thing. The key here is they got to get across the aisle to get this done, and I think that's going to be the thing to watch. Here's Tony coming in from Thinking Crypto. SEC's unlawful SAB 121 repealed. Honestly, I think it was why Robinhood News recently broke. Gensler went on CNBC yesterday. He's trying to bury it, and I would agree. We've talked about this before. His losses are piling up. He's doing these delay and don't look over here tactics, which seem to be aligned with what's happening with SAB 121. Chamber CEO Perry Ann Boring, this came over from the Digital Chamber in statement. Stringent requirement is proven to deter institutions from offering digital asset at custody, meaning our banks are now limited on how we can go into the digital asset space, and we lose market share to international banks and what is happening in the rest of the field. So the SEC has come in. This was pretty much the scenario that they were playing into. On the Ripple side of things, they basically say it also plans, meaning Ripple, plans to issue a new unregistered crypto asset. This is talking about the stablecoin, which is going to be XRPD or USD XRP. But the point being, it's not even done yet. So that isn't even a scenario that plays out as of yet, but they're already kind of going in this. The other thing they hit on was on page 7 or page 12 of the document. This argument is akin to saying the New York Restaurant Association need not obtain a liquor license because it obtained a fishing license in California, which is absurd. So that is another scenario that's an argument that they have coming in. And just when you think the SEC can't sink any lower, don't worry about it. Financial regulators outside the U.S. who have done the hard work establishing comprehensive crypto licensing frameworks, don't worry. You're just really issuing a fishing license over there. So there's a lot of tit for tat going on here. The low penalty here on Ripple demands that would be a slap on the wrist. So what this means is that what they're asking for would be a win. So I think this is something that we can kind of play out here. Here's a couple other statements. This one right here, again, from Alderati. More on the same from the SEC, failing to faithfully apply the law, trying to pull the wool over judges' eyes. Good news is that we're closer than ever putting this lawsuit behind us. Hopefully, we're going to get this done. And of course, they trust that the court will approach the remedies phase fairly. So I think this is going to be a win for XRP, hence a win for crypto. And if Ripple only pays $10 million, it's a loss, according to the SEC's own words, and a win for crypto in general. So that in itself is huge. I want to go over to another clip here just to show you the continuation of our lawmakers. This, of course, is Brad Sherman. So trigger warning.
Next week is Law Enforcement Week, and we will honor those who fight for crime in the streets. It's entirely appropriate that the SEC has brought enforcement action against crypto, and especially against DebtBox, because DebtBox was clearly a security. There were 2 SEC lawyers who acted wrongfully in the DebtBox case. They've been fired. And I think that sets an example that will assure that other SEC lawyers do not act similarly. The crypto industry will tell us that Sam Bankman-Fried is a single snake in a garden of crypto Eden, when in fact crypto is a garden of snakes. Recent SEC actions illustrate that. Without objection, I'd like to enter into the record this article in Politico. SEC's Gensler turns tide against crypto in courts.
I would like to submit this article in projection to what some of my colleagues have highlighted that submit how these losses are piling up and the SEC's record is increasing despite this. Mr. Morgan.
Without objection.
In that same Politico article I think he was referring to, it feels like we're winning. This comes in from the Blockchain Association, Kristen Smith. Crypto industry is feeling like you can take on the SEC and win. And this would be the case if we get a favorable fine for a situation that, remember, XRP won. It is not a security still. So that's a big deal going forward. I want to go into another clip. This is the lawyers talking about the SEC disgorgement.
Delays in SEC investigations remain a persistent challenge, and the SEC should restore a 2-year goal for the completion of investigations. Until recently, the SEC had a performance goal of filing enforcement actions within 2 years of opening an investigation.
The SEC and courts have nearly total and unreviewable discretion to set penalty amounts. The area is lawless, which gives federal courts the authority to award disgorgement in SEC enforcement cases. Federal courts have already split on that question. Congress should enact clarifying amendments to prevent the delay, uncertainty, and inconsistency that will occur if the questions are left to the courts.
Here's another trigger warning. This is more happening during this hearing that is interesting. Listen in.
And I hammered home the fact that it's not enough to go after the crypto. You have to go after the illegal securities exchanges, and the SEC has begun to do just that. I would like to see Americans invest in the stock of companies that create a product or service for American consumers.
In all my years, I've never witnessed such a well-funded, coordinated, and unfounded assault on the SEC and its mission.
Well, Mr. Stark, are we over-deterring beneficial actions in our capital markets?
I don't think so, Congressman. If the SEC weren't out there deterring crypto, in fact, I would argue all of which they've won, if the SEC weren't out there, investors would just lose more and more money, and there would be tremendous systemic risk to U.S. capital markets.
I applaud the SEC and their legal team in gaining jurisdiction by applying that case. But Congress should vest all authority, or should vest full authority in the SEC to regulate crypto. And yet Congress sits back and lets the courts decide whether the SEC has jurisdiction by counting oranges in an orange grove in a 1940s orange grove.
I just heard that they should stay within their boundaries. Your thoughts?
I agree they should stay within their boundaries, and this is precisely within their boundaries, Congresswoman.
I also heard, I think we should be careful about penalties, that we're charging too many penalties. Have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Ransomware, child pornography, human sex trafficking, and sanctions evasion, terrorist activities from rogue nations. CZ was sentenced to 4 months. Can't we do something to meet for someone like CZ to go to prison for a longer time than 4 months?
We're going to have a bill on the floor on Wednesday, another attempt to kill off the SEC on Sob 121, where they're simply trying to follow the guidance of the SEC as it relates to disclosure and what to do on the balance sheet. I yield back.
This is so good that we have such a clown show to be watching. I feel like I'm in the Barnum and Bailey circus here. And it gets worse. John, just in case you don't know who John Reed Stark is, here's his Twitter account, and he kind of goes in all in on it. But I love this last statement. In other words, the NFT marketplace is a glossy, Walking Dead-like anarchical free-for-all. No amount of lobbying or dollars, smiling faces, FOMO can ever counter that. This is stark reality. All right, well, I think the point is clear. Great script, by the way. I thought the script was well done, performed by the two actors, and then the supporting cast with Maxine coming in right there at the end. Beautiful, awesome, but at the end of the day, they're all wrong, because at the end of the day, I still think the SEC is going to have their day, and that is going to change the force of where crypto is going. And all this is going to come from a regulatory alignment in Congress. So if you're not voting, guys, this is the time to do it. You've got to get out there and support your lawmakers that understand what's happening, how innovation occurs, and in many cases, these kind of things like this right here are happening because they just don't know or understand the future of technology. All right, if you guys are not in the Diamond Circle, get in there right now. It's another great place to catch additional content. You can also follow me out there on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.